Talk to me nice. Talk to me.
G'day Art Snackers, my name is James of James Luke Burke Creative and welcome to another month of ArtSnacks Box Freestyle, where we take the supplies from the April 2023 ArtSnacks Plus box, experiment with them to within an inch of their lives and then hopefully create a masterpiece for the hashtag ArtSnacks Challenge. This month's fun fact is, if my timing works out correctly, you'll probably be watching this as I'm in the middle of the Caribbean somewhere. I'm about to go on a Disney cruise, and also fun fact, it was the last Disney cruise line that I used to work on as a dancer, so I'm going on a family holiday. I hope you enjoy this. I'll come back and see all the comments you've left afterwards. Have a great time watching. We'll see what we get up to. Let's look at the box. Here's the ArtSnacks Plus box for April 2023. Here's everything inside. Let's unwrap that little green burrito and take a closer look at what we'll be playing with today. First up in the Plus box, we have the Clairefontaine Paint on White Mixed Media paper pad in size 7 by 10 inches. And in the Plus box, we also get a set of Faber-Castell Pitt Artist pens, a lettering art set. The colors I got in my pack were middle purple pink, light green, orange glaze, and cobalt green. We'll be using 3 Sennelier oil pastels. I got red, yellow, and blue. The colors were 220, 19, and 6, as well as 2 Art Alternatives blending stumps and a Plumchester paint marker, which is an ArtSnacks exclusive, and the color I got is mauve, or mauve. I don't know how you say that properly. We say mauve in my family. And we also have our snack and our sticker. Let's get everything set up and start playing. Alrighty, first up in our little swatch fest, we have the Faber-Castell Pitt Artist pens. I'll be swatching out all the colors here. I'm also going over the top a few times, just layering them, just to see if I can get that vibrancy to pick up a little bit and see if I can do like a tone-on-tone kind of an effect. And it also took me 4 layers to start peeling the paper, which is sometimes good to know if you're going to use mixed media and you've got some kind of wet application, like a marker or something, just because you could peel that paper if you really scrub into it a lot. The menu says, in this set you will find 4 different colors of Faber-Castell Pitt Artist pens that look great together. I do agree, those were a great color story. Very tropical, I feel. This pen's nib works like a paintbrush, creating a range of brush strokes from broad to narrow. The India ink is light fast and waterproof and can be layered to create new or deeper colors. Be sure to store these pens horizontally when not in use. So you can layer them like I did there. I didn't really layer any colors to create secondary colors. I was more just trying a tone-on-tone technique, but I did really love that color story. We have also the Plumchester paint marker. This is an ArtSnacks exclusive. The Plumchester paint marker is filled with acrylic paint that's fast drying, opaque, and permanent. It works on a variety of surfaces. Reverse the tip and you'll find 2 different nibs, a 3mm bullet on one end and a 5mm chisel on the other. I think you just pull the tip out and just literally twist it around and shove it back in if you're trying to figure out how to do that. Be sure to use this marker underneath your oil pastels, not layered on top. And do you know, I actually have oppositional defiance disorder, self-diagnosed of course, so I did have to try it on top. I even tried the markers on top. And do you know what? I know that it's not a good thing to do, and first of all, we should just be thankful that I actually submitted this video, because I am so afraid of oil pastels. I'm so afraid of chalk pastels, like any kind of pastel in general, I really, really struggle with. And this one really set the alarms off when I opened the box, because I was like, it's not going to work out. I actually did have a really good time, but wow, was it challenging. And so I kind of, leaned into my defiant nature a little bit, and I had to try some of those markers on top. They don't work. I knew they wouldn't work, but especially because it said don't do it on the menu card, I did it. So hopefully you can see from me doing it that you shouldn't do it. But if you're just like me and you have to try it anyway, make sure you scrub that tip off immediately. Mostly the paint marker is not going to be too bad if you layer that over the top, but it just might have troubles drying down properly because it's not going to sink into the substrate. It sits on top of that oil pastel, and that oil in that binder that is the oil takes like tons and tons and tons of time to cure properly. But if you use the water-based markers, the Pitt Artist pens, those you could actually ruin. So please, please, please be careful. There you go. There you see me doing it. Immediate regret. I put it off. But you can see the paint marker does kind of layer on top, and it's a bigger, broader nib, so it wouldn't destroy as quickly, but really be careful if you're going to do that. I know it says don't do it on the menu card. I had to show you, and I had to do it. Somewhere my mum is in the back of my head telling me, there you go again. All right, the next thing we swatched out were the Sennelier oil pastels. Speak of the devil. We got 3 in there. This is a staff favorite. I've never used these before. I was very intimidated. But in the little write-up on the menu card, we've got in 1949, Sennelier developed their, I hope I'm saying that properly. Sorry to all of these brands whenever I butcher your names. Sennelier developed their incomparable oil pastels for a famous artist you may heard of, Picasso. I've never heard of him. Picasso is looking for me. Do you know what's so funny? Sorry to interject, but my husband was looking at me do this, and he goes, "Oh, what are those?" And I said, "Oh, they're oil pastels." And he's like, "Oh, you never use those?" And I said, "Yeah, I know. This is what Picasso uses." And he goes, "Oh yeah, you should do something Picasso." And I was like, "Oh yeah, why not? Let me just sit down and create a Picasso real quick. Like, why not?" Like, he was dead serious. I mean, I love the amount of confidence that he has in me that I could just sit down and do a Picasso for you just on a random Tuesday. But yeah, so that was, I thought it was funny. Anyway, Picasso was looking for a medium that could be used freely on a variety of surfaces without fading or cracking, and Sennelier oil pastels were born. They have an extremely high pigment content which results in great coverage, excellent brightness and light fastness. You'll fall in love with the creamy texture and unlimited possibilities. Look, fall in love is a generous statement, but I'll give it to you. I did actually love what I ended up doing. I think I just get stressed because it just seems so real, and it's a weird way to say this, but it's kind of the way that my family's always phrased things. Like, when things become kind of legitimized, or when they become, I don't know, in my family we just say like, oh, it's real. Like, if you if you go to do an art piece and you use proper art supplies and you do it on a canvas, that's real. I know it sounds crazy. But anyway, so this supply to me has always seemed like a real supply. Unlike if I just used, you know, a Crayola pencil, that doesn't seem real to me. It seems like play. So yeah, there was like this intimidation factor that I just felt. And I've already discussed this with ArtSnacks before. I said, whenever you put pastels in the box, expect me to go away without warning. I can't bear the thought of what I'm going to have to do to get through the challenge. But I mean, look, it's a challenge. I signed up for it. You guys sign up for it every month, the ArtSnacks challenge. So I really gave it my best, and I am very, very proud. But here's the little swatching that we did. The blending stumps, there's not much to say about those, although you can easily use your fingers to blend your new oil pastels. These blending stumps from Art Alternatives are great for finer details in small areas. To use, rub from darker to lighter colors or in circular motions both ways to produce a blended hue. I didn't really do any fine technique with how I use my blending stumps. I just kind of go crazy with them and just smush them everywhere. You will have notice that as I'm doing my finished piece here, when I did my examples or my little swatching and my tests, I did a bit of a scratching, etching exercise, and for that you really want to build up a lot of oil pastel on the page, but you want to be able to scrape through to underneath something. So when you're seeing this final piece come together, I actually used those Pitt pens to create a layer of color that would just be a little bit more vibrant, so that once I scratched through the oil pastels, I wasn't going to hit white paper, which can just provide a lot of contrast. I wanted a very soft, kind of multicolored contrast when I scratched through the oil pastels. But for that also, when you use your blending stumps, if you really burnish that pastel into the page, then you won't have any of that either. So it's something you want to think about before you actually go to town with them, because if you're going to use a scratching or an etching technique to reveal the underneath, and you want white to kind of pop through, you really don't want to be burnishing too hard with that blending stump. I did it on purpose, and because I kind of have this rule with myself that if I can't control the medium too well, then I shouldn't bother. I should actually lean into how out of control it is. So when I use the blending stump, I put it all together. I blended the paint marker into the oil pastel, and I blended colors into colors until it was actually really, really dirty looking. It looks like I've done it wrong. It looks like I've gone way too far, but like it says in that write-up, the oil pastels are extremely pigmented. They're very, very bright and creamy, and they layer and lay on top of themselves so well that you're actually going to be able to go over the top of it a bunch of times and bring back some of that vibrancy, and you're going to be able to clean it up a lot. So what you're going to see is kind of the same technique used over and over and over again. It's a laydown of color at the base just to give it some vibrancy, and I also had to sketch it out with something, so I used the pens to sketch that out, the Pitt Artist pens. And then you're going to see a bunch of layering with the pastels and the paint marker, and then I just scrub it all together with the blending stump. I'm really I'm not trying to blend the whole thing together. It's just area into area. So, one color next to another, I'll blend those two together, and then I'll kind of separate what blends into the next thing. I don't want to just smudge the whole thing together because that would just ruin all of the detail. And I had to be a little bit selective with only 3 colors to figure out what parts I had to color in which color so that they didn't all look like just one big amorphous blob. And that was actually kind of challenging. I don't really ever put too much thought into those things, so I did have to stop and think, would this look like it blends into this? If you see the blue hand of that little monster guy there, I couldn't do another blue little creature next to it because it would look like it was kind of attached. So you're kind of really trying to balance that out, and I have to say half of it was luck. It just kind of happened the first way that I did it. But even this little guy over here, like, I had to make sure that he was at least a little bit separate from that belly so he didn't look like he was just attached to it, because I was going to color him yellow as well. These characters, I've actually done a whole piece on this before. I have an art book. It's a kind of like a collectible toys art book, and it's called I Am Plastic 2. I did this art book playtime series when I ran my Patreon, and it was just so much fun to kind of pull inspiration from all these random coffee table art books that I have. And this one was all these really collectible vinyl figurine, collectible limited run toys. And so I had done a whole collage panoramic spread. You'll see it in the final B-roll footage when I kind of scan around the table. You'll see a big panoramic spread of these characters. I just pulled a bunch of those that I did inspired by that art book, and I've put them together into just a smaller little grouping of friends, because I needed something that was a little bit less detailed for me to focus on, because I really just don't have control over the oil pastels. And like I said, when I can't control it, I have to kind of give into it. I have to make it messy. I have to clean up whatever I can clean up, but then just kind of let the rest live. But I will say the real hero of this spread, I think, is actually the scratching technique. I had an old pen. I have a whole bunch of, like, a box of old dead pens and pencils and everything that's kind of, they're dead art supplies, but I like to keep them for some reason. And I pulled one of the old pens out that just doesn't work anymore and used it to scratch this very, very fine texture into the oil pastel. So it kind of looked like it was a little furry. Can you see the little scratches that kind of pick up all that loose oil pastel? That's why I laid it down very, very thick. And that's why you can also see when it scratches through, it becomes a little bit more luminous over those areas that I have that light green color that I used from the Pit pen. You can really see that pop through. Some of the pink will pop through in some of the red areas. I tried to kind of blend the same color that I would use in the same area, especially here, the back of a paintbrush, and I scraped through. Can you see that original Pit artist pen color underneath the belly there? I was really happy that worked out because I didn't really test that too well before I started. I was kind of going in with blind faith, let's be real. But that pen, scraping through all of that texture and giving it just an extra bit of dimension and popping out some more of that color that was underneath, was just, I think, the real winner in this whole technique. So be sure to grab something you can scratch through in your piece, even if it's just to put some detail back into the eyes or something. Like I put some catch lights back in. Ultimately, I did scratch over everything because I was just loving it too much. And this was a really, really fine pen. I think it was a 0.38. So it made for a very, very fine detail. So I just think it looked really impressive when it was done. It was one of those, what's it called? Like small effort, big payoff type things. So the scratching really helped. And here, when I zoom out a little bit, you will see, and you can kind of see it over there on the right. This is why I don't use pastels. I am just the messiest person in the world, especially when I'm using art supplies that shouldn't even be messy. Like, I can get them everywhere, all over my table, all over my arms, all over my clothes, and especially all over the side of the drawing. Now, I was really upset because I am stupid, and I had that little piece of napkin over there to wipe the pen off whenever I got too much buildup of oil pastel, but then I decided to rest on it for some reason, and then I decided to rest on the side of my page. So essentially, I would get all the little crumbs off, put them on the napkin, transfer them to the side of my wrist, and then stamp them back on the side of the page. Don't ask me, like, I don't know, I can't be helped at this point. So that was the only thing that I was a little upset about. However, I took some really good photos of this, and I'm going to digitize it and put it on my computer because I was really, really proud of it. I don't know if I was just proud because I love the aesthetic quality of it. The color story just seemed to look really, really whimsical and fun. The texture was just so gorgeously intricate, and I just felt so proud of kind of completing something that I felt like I was really going to fail at. It was very nice, welcome surprise for me, and I was just so happy. So I hope you can find some success with these supplies, learn from my mistakes, don't dip your hand in the crayon crumbs, and yeah, grab something that you can scratch through with, because I think you'll have a good time doing that. Enjoy the rest of the B-roll. There's that panoramic spread I was talking about. You can see those little characters there. I hope you enjoyed watching. I'll join you for the outro in a second.
Make me feel right. I can't help have this sweet talk. I'm already on my way. I'm pulling up, don't be late. I'm cutting through all the
There we go. That is everything for this month. If you enjoyed that, please don't forget to share your work with us using the hashtag ArtSnacksChallenge in the Mix community and on social media. And if you would like to join ArtSnacks, you can use the code James10 at checkout for 10% off. This has been another month of ArtSnacks Box Freestyle. I hope you enjoyed that. I'll see you again next month, and until then, bye.